my phone for the interview questions. Can you hear good?
Yeah,
All right, we can hear you. It's too soft, too loud?
I'm good.
Why don't you put the hat on after the headphones, or before the headphones?
You can put the headphones on
Over the hat.
Oh, yeah, cool.
It's fun. Everyone sounds so different.
Okay, we ready, man?
We're ready. I'm ready. You ready?
3, 2, 1.
All right. Today we are going to be interviewing Jack Ernest. My name is Nathan Slusser. I'm with the Jefferson County Veteran Service Office. We're here. I'll be the interviewer. Derek Board will be recording both video and audio for us. Today is the 19th of February, 2021. We are at 500 Market Street in Steubenville, Ohio, 43952. This is going to be, the purpose of this video is going to be for the Library of Congress Veteran History Project. And Jack, I need you to provide me a couple things. Your full name.
Jack L. Ernest,
Your branch of service.
United States Marine Corps.
And the highest rank achieved.
Sergeant E5.
And finally, the war or conflicts that you served in.
Vietnam.
Vietnam. All right, so we're going to start with some of the basic questions here. Like, first off, where were you born?
I was born in a little place called Power, West Virginia, which is located south of Wellsburg, West Virginia.
Okay. And your parents you grew up with, what did they do when you grew up?
My dad worked in a electric plant producing electricity. He was a boiler operator. And my mom was a mom who stayed at home and raised 7 children.
And pretty general upbringing, pretty normal for that time?
Yes.
Was it rough, easy?
It was rough. We were poor. We had to grow our own vegetables and stuff like that and hunt for the meat that we would have. But we had a wonderful childhood. Absolutely wonderful.
That's great. Did you have any siblings?
Yes. I had 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and 2 died at birth.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Did either of them or any of them serve in the military?
Yes, my older brother, Robert, served in the United States Navy, and he was a corpsman equal to a medic in the Army. And my younger brother served in the Navy also.
Oh, that's whole family of veterans, huh?
Yes.
That's great. So did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted.
Okay. When you enlisted, how did your parents and siblings feel about you joining?
My brother was just getting ready to get out. He told me, no way should you join the service at this point in time because of the war in Vietnam. And my mom, when the Marine Corps recruiter came to the house, she basically drove him off with a broom.
That's awesome. So in school, what schools have you gone to, as a child, primary school, middle school, your entire educational history?
Well, there was a small grade school, junior high school located near where I lived. And it was in a little place called Beach Bottom, West Virginia, grades 1 through 9. And once we graduated from the 9th grade, we went to Wellsburg for the 10th, 11th, and 12th grades, of which I graduated. And at that point, I got a job, and for about the first year, and we couldn't get better jobs. So a buddy of mine and I decided to enlist. We weren't drafted. We enlisted in the Marine Corps.
Okay. What was that job that you did?
Oh, it was a car parking attendant.
Okay. So we're going to move on a little bit into the kind of your early days of service now. So we already established that you enlisted. Why? Why did you enlist?
Good question. I'm glad you asked. Because back in those days, and we're talking 50s, 40s, 50s, We were expected to serve our country. We were very proud of our country. We were kind of taught to follow in the footsteps of your uncles, fathers, grandfathers. And I had two uncles that served in World War II. Many of my cousins served, some of them in Vietnam, and then others. So I wanted to do my part. I wanted to do my part. And so I felt it was natural for me to join the service and do my part for my country.
I've never heard a better reason, honestly. That's amazing. When once you got through the enlistment process and you actually started in the military, who all did you leave behind here back home?
Well, I left mom and dad. I left two brothers, two sisters, aunts and uncles, cousins.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are affected by when someone leaves like that. So where did you join and like what was their point of entry when you got in?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything special about any of that you remember?
Yeah, it was funny because, of course, Vietnam was going on pretty strong at that point. It was July 1965, and they needed bodies. They needed people, and so the draft was going on. But like I say, I wasn't drafted. I enlisted. I chose to serve my country. And at the recruiting depot in Pittsburgh, a lot of the guys, we were getting shots and signing paperwork and stuff when they were standing out in the hall. And the gentleman in charge would come out and they would line up, say, 10 guys at a time along the wall. And they would come out and they would point and say, you, and you, Army. They'd turn around and go to the other wall and they'd say, you, you're going Marine Corps. And it was pretty funny because a lot of guys that was appointed to go in the Marine Corps were drafted. And, man, they were screaming and hollering, no, I don't want to go to the Marine Corps, But and it was kind of a funny part of a tragic thing.
It is. And so did they treat you differently because you were an enlistee rather than a draftee? Or was it pretty much the same as everybody?
I guess it was the same. I'm going to say it was the same. I didn't, experience any preferential treatment because I had enlisted.
Okay. I've just heard stories of guys saying, like, the guys who are screaming and they're upset that they're going. You're right, it's tragic, but, they're saying that, man, they were really treated poorly. So I didn't know if it was just an equal across the board thing or if it was, So when you finally got through the, we called it MEPS when I was in. Was it MEPS, military entry? What was it? Was it something? I forget exactly what MEPS stands for.
Okay.
But heading off to basic training, where'd you go to basic training?
Parris Island, South Carolina.
Okay, so what other than basic training? What schools did you go to when you were in the military?
Well, we were constantly having to take classes for different things, but and we can move on up. And then like I said, I volunteered to join. I volunteered to go to Vietnam. And I knew it was inevitable that I was going. Sooner or later, I'm going to go. I'm an infantryman in the Marine Corps. I knew that eventually I'd be going. So a buddy of mine that we grew up together, went to high school together, we both chose to join the Marines and volunteer to go to Vietnam because we wanted to try to stay together. But that ended once we landed in Da Nang Harbor. He went one way and I went the other. But during, I think stands out the most for me is I was chosen to attend Vietnamese language training in Okinawa, Japan. I was already in Vietnam, had been fighting for 5 months, and then one day I was called up to the command tent and the captain said, pack your gear, you're flying out in the morning. And I said, sir, do you mind if I ask why and where I'm going? He said, yeah, you've been selected to go to Vietnamese language school in Okinawa, Japan. So he said, get your stuff ready. You'll be flying out in the morning.
Okay. So you went through basic. You went through infantrymen training, right? And
Yes.
then the Vietnamese school.
Yes.
Any of those trainings, was there anything that stands out, any instructor in particular, or any event during training that was, really shocking, or, good, bad, indifferent, however, whatever you remember?
I think in the Vietnamese language training was very, very challenging for one thing, especially to learn a Asian language. And Vietnamese language is horrible to learn. But the thing that challenged me was that I remember our instructor who were Vietnamese.
Mm-hmm.
And the instructors told us that what you learn or don't learn while you're here will affect your fellow Marines. So pay attention and learn, because if there's something you're just not paying attention, that may cost one of your fellow Marines his life.
That's heavy.
Very heavy.
That's extremely heavy. I bet that felt like it put a real heavy weight on your shoulders, knowing that.
It did. So therefore, I applied myself even more. And a lot of guys, after classes were done, and we went to class 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, and it was intense, because back in those days, I'm talking in 66, 67, we didn't have all the modern technology that we have today. We had old reel-to-reel tape recorders, and we sat in a little booth. Each one had an individual booth, and you had to, take notes and write stuff down and watch the instructor. But after having heard that, it caused me to become more involved in learning rather than just being there and putting in my time, and then after we get out of school just to go out and drink and do, whatever. I needed to apply myself, and I did.
Okay. Were there any tests, or like how did school work? I mean, did it, for those of us who don't know, was it like just a straight through, you learn certain things, you move on, or was there a test? And if you didn't pass that test, did you fail out? How did that all transpire and work?
There was tests, but there was no test to where if you didn't get a certain percentage, you just dropped out and they'd send you back. But often they would use literally visuals. Like, for example, they would hold up an orange, and the instructor would never say orange. No English allowed. They would hold the orange up, and this is learning by sight, learning visually. And they would hold that orange up, and the instructor, like I said, being Vietnamese, they would hold the orange up, and all eyes are looking up on the stage, and she or he would say, cam, cam. That's, in the Vietnamese language, that's orange. Or she would hold up an apple, or a pistol, or a grenade. And they would speak what that item was in Vietnamese, so that whenever you were to see it, sight association. And if you saw that, then you would learn what that was in the Vietnamese language.
Okay. Was this a multi-service school, or was it just Marines with you?
No, it was multi.
Okay.
Multi. Matter of fact, it was conducted on an Army base on the island of Okinawa. We went to it was an Army school, actually, that we attended. So it was, multi-service.
That's cool. I'm going to move back a little bit. After basic training, what was your first assignment?
My first assignment was I was placed in 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, and then we were deployed on what they called a Mediterranean cruise, where there were 6 or 7 ships in a fleet. And then we would, for 8 months, we cruised around the Allied ports of the Caribbean, or the Mediterranean. And there was a whole battalion of Marines on all these ships that was ready to be deployed at any given moment, and we could hit any one of our allied ports within 2 to 3 days, and we would land, and we could just go ashore and do whatever needed to be done.
Well, that's all. That's kind of the Marines' mission, isn't it?
Yes.
To be a mobile force that can
Right.
be there and kind of take care of business almost immediately.
Yeah.
Where's the 8th Battalion out of? Is that stateside? Is that overseas?
Oh, we were out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Okay. Okay. So before going to linguist school, did you have any specialized training on equipment? Any specialized gun training or weapons? Anything?
Yeah, we had to learn and I don't want to say it like but in the Marine Corps, we had to learn to fire every weapon that we had at our disposal. Like we had to learn how to fire, of course, your rifles. We started off with the M1 rifle, then the M14 rifle, and not only that, and then of course the 45 caliber pistol. In our classes inside, not on the rifle range, but inside the classes, you had the classes first and watched the instructor, and then they taught you how to disassemble the rifle, the pistol, and then you were blindfolded. And you may say, well, what's up with that? Why would you be blindfolded? Well, let's say you're fighting at night, your gun jams, your weapon jams. You have to know how to disassemble that weapon, whether it be a rifle or a pistol, and clear the jam, fix the problem if possible, reassemble that rifle or pistol, and get back into action as soon as possible. Why? Well, your fellow soldier or your fellow Marine depends on you. And that's one of the things that we call brotherhood. You know, we say so easily, we'll say, hey, I got your back. I got your back. But do you really understand what you're saying when you say that? If I was in battle with you, Nathan, or with you, brother, I could trust you to have my back. Because when you said, Jack, we got this, or I got your back, I can continue fighting, advancing, or whatever, knowing I'm not alone. Not alone.
And that's something I don't think a lot of people, as you said, people don't understand what that means.
No.
And I think that, hopefully discussions like this will be able to help some others understand that. So back to that training a little bit. I know in my experience, they try to put us under pressure. They try to put us under stress.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the blindfold is a stressful situation. But were there any other stresses incorporated in the training of your weapons assembly or disassembly or any of your trainings? I mean, I know it's not, the military in itself is not an easy lifestyle, but in that capacity, did they try to do any stressful stuff?
Yeah, you had to. Well, the physical part of it, when you're going through basic training, your boot camp basic training, you were pushed to your limit. You were pushed to keep going. If you fall down, get up and keep running if necessary, if that's what you're doing. If you're climbing a wall, trying to scale a wall. Some guys were stronger, some guys were in better physical condition than others. And you're starting to climb up a wall, man. And it's like, wow, man, I can't get up this thing. And all of a sudden you feel somebody behind you shoving you or putting their hand out for you to step on to get over. Once again, the brotherhood. And I think that's one thing that makes the American fighting man so awesome, is that we take care of one another. And so much of the training that, we had to do, we had to learn. For example, why, if I'm going to be a rifleman, why do I have to learn the characteristics and the mechanics of firing M60 machine gun. That's not my forte. I'm a rifleman. I need to know all there is to know about a rifle. Why do I also need to know how to fire an M60 machine gun? Well, here's why. Nate is an M60 gunner. Nate gets hit. He's out of commission. Maybe he was killed. Somebody has to be able to pick up that M60 machine gun and carry on the fight. And if you weren't trained in how to use that weapon, then that weapon becomes useless and the enemy has an opening in your defense. So that's why we were trained with every weapon that we had in our arsenal. We had to know that if an M60 guy goes down, Jack runs up, or Derek runs up, picks up at 60 as if nothing ever happened, continues to fight, continues to fire. And that's why we were trained so intensely.
Yeah, I remember I always said that no one person was the glue of the military. I mean,
Amen.
none of us were the glue.
You're
and
right.
it's still going on without all three of us
Absolutely.
today.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important part of the way that we all learned and trained and,
Right. Yeah.
did our jobs, essentially.
Yeah.
What did you, so the next question is, did you receive any, obviously you were a E5 sergeant.
Yes.
We covered that. So obviously you promoted. Was there anything special about your promotions? How was the Marine Corps promotions in the Vietnam era?
Well, if you were in Vietnam, literally in Vietnam, the promotions, I guess we refer to them as battlefield promotions.
Okay.
What's the other word? Meritorious promotions. And so I went to Vietnam as an E3, which would be in Marine Corps, Lance Corporal E3.
Okay.
So I don't remember how long I was in Vietnam, months, and then I was promoted to E4, which is a corporal. And then I received my promotion to sergeant once I got back into the United States. But they needed leadership. So you got guys I'm just going to be blunt, you got guys being killed every day. You need a squad leader, or platoon sergeant. Say you needed a squad leader. Squad leader's dead, he got killed. And Nate's the next guy up. You might be an E3. Tomorrow you could be an E4, commanding a whole squad of men. Heavy responsibility, because in a combat situation, when they put you in charge of other men, then you become responsible for and to those men. Now those men are going to be looking to you for guidance, leadership.
Well, on that, so not everyone's made to be a leader.
Correct.
What happens to the guys who maybe get promoted and they're not supposed to? Not that they're not supposed to. I mean, obviously the military has a chain of command. In a combat scenario, I know that, stateside, it's during training, it's easy to say, okay, well, he's the E4, so he makes the call.
Right.
But when lives are on the line, and you know that Johnny is a horrible leader and he makes horrible decisions, how did the Marines deal with that?
Well, in combat, because I'm speaking as a combat veteran, so I know
Right.
I can speak best about that. We didn't have guys weren't put in leadership positions unless they expressed leadership qualities. They would not. Now, back in the States, I'm sure that can be different, but during a war zone, you know who knows what. You know who can be trusted. You know who should be promoted and put into certain specific roles. So I don't think that we dealt with that.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, drawing from my experience, which is different time frame, completely different,
Right.
different branch of service.
Mm-hmm.
We take a test to get rank.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really based on leadership ability. So in combat, it's completely different. It's
Yes.
not about the guy who can answer the most questions right on a test,
Correct.
or who's next in line, quote unquote. It's the best and most effective leader
Right.
who gets promoted.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes total sense,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like a smarter way to
Yeah.
do things than just the basic test idea.
Right.
So how long were you in?
I was in just a little less than 4 years. I got an early out, they called it, because I didn't have enough time left to be sent back to Vietnam. So
Okay.
I got out like 4 months early. So I was in 4 years. That was my assignment, my enlistment time, 4 years. So I think 3 years, 8 months total time.
I'll give that 4 years. I would consider
Give
that
me
4.
four?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Four
I'll
for
give
the
you
Corps.
4. Yeah, so we'll consider it like
Okay,
that.
4 for the Corps.
No, but really, what I was trying to lead into, it's more of a transitional question. Is they were asked about military lifestyle, and it sounds like yours was mainly in Nam. Or on a ship or deployed. So what was the hardest part about that military lifestyle that you were living for you? Or what was it like in general? It doesn't have to be the hardest, but what was it like in general? And then also what was the hardest part?
Okay. Back to Vietnam. When you're deployed, you guys were deployed, whether it's combat or not, you are separated from your loved ones. And God forbid if you happen to have been married during your time in the service. I think that separation from family is a very, very difficult thing for all of us, whether you're deployed into a combat situation or not. I was deployed, like I said, 8 months in the Mediterranean, no combat, but still 8 months away. And guess what happens during the year? Holidays. Whoa. Thanksgiving. What did we do before we went in the military? Thanksgiving. Oh my gosh, everybody shows up in one place and we're all having a great time. Haven't seen you in so long and whatever. And then Christmas. Oh my. Everybody's supposed to be together around Christmas. Gift exchanges. 1966. I spent Christmas alone on a hilltop overlooking a valley, which was famous for enemy troop movements. By myself, sitting on a pinnacle with my rifle, binoculars, and sea rations. So there I am, sitting there on Christmas Day, just a kid, thinking about, wow, Uncle Rob's coming over, Aunt Lucy's coming over, Dad and Mom, little sister, brother, they're all together. They're opening gifts. Man, I wish I could be there. And so here's this young kid, Marine, sitting on this rock. And he does something that Marines aren't allowed to do. He cries.
I think that's understandable.
He cries. So being in the service is a great, great sacrifice. Currently, I have a nephew that's a E7 gunnery sergeant in the Army, getting ready for his 3rd or 4th deployment. He's got a wife and 3 wonderful little sons, and he's going to have to say goodbye. Pack it up, kiss his wife, and go get in his car and drive to the base. Airport, gone. How long? We don't know. Maybe 9 months, 10 months. And his kids are growing up. He's getting older. But listen, this country to veterans is worth it. We believe that whatever happens, I choose, and life is about choices. I choose to serve my country and my fellow man. I choose. Nobody's twisting my arm. Nobody's got a gun at the back of my head pushing me down a hallway. I choose because I care. And I love my country because look at all the ones that have gone before me to ensure that I possess the freedoms that I possess today. So therefore, I'm going to follow in their footsteps to ensure that your grandkids can grow up in freedom.
And I assume you'd do it all over again
I would,
in a heartbeat.
right now.
I've never met a veteran that I know who hasn't said the same thing. So, and that's a powerful statement that I think that people in general need to understand. It's not about the service isn't about you.
We're different.
It's about everybody.
And a veteran is different. Just no matter, you can put us all together and shake it up, pour it out on the table. We're different.
No.
Because some of us, because of our upbringing, family members, grandfathers, whatever. And I remember my two uncles served in World War II. And thank God they both came home. They both came home with both legs, both arms. But their minds were different. But they went to work, made a living, produced a family. And they afforded me the opportunity to run around and climb trees and go fishing in a free country. And so when I become of age, I looked at all that and I thought, my turn. And I stepped up to the plate, willing, happy to do it. And I volunteered to join. I volunteered to go to Vietnam. Still volunteering today.
Volunteered to come here on short notice and do this with us. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I get to hang out with my brothers, man.
And we appreciate it.
See?
Yeah. These questions, we're going to move this on to the wartime service and be real focused on that. So, first off, where all in Nam during combat did you serve?
Oh, geez.
Yeah, we're going to go into combat. I'm sorry.
No, that's cool. I'm good. I got to Vietnam October 1966. Went to Vietnam on a ship. Took us like 28 days to get there. And the ship was a merchant marine ship, they called them. And there were Army guys on there, Marines. I don't know what other branches, but we were all together going to do, a together thing, serve our country. And so when I got into Vietnam, they gave us weapons, flak jackets, helmets, cartridge belts, and set us south. We went south of Da Nang to an area called Chu Lai. It was down on the coastal area of the South China Sea. And then we served there for a period of time. Then our battalion got orders to move further north, and we went to an area called Hoi An, Tam Ki. And one of the places that you did not want to go was called Hiep Duc, Hiepduc, Hiep Duc. And it was very, very famous and well known for large concentrations of the enemy. Skilled, trained NVAs, which stood for North Vietnamese Army. This wasn't just the local farmers taking up arms. This was the trained North Vietnamese Army. These guys were as equipped as we were. They had helmets, they had the whole shebang. And so that's where we got into a lot of the heavy fighting in that area.
Now, you speak of the NVA. My experience was I always respected the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were all doing our job.
Right.
I mean, we may not see eye to eye on a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that a lot of people forget that these people are doing what they think is right. And again, like I said, I respected them. They were trained like we were. They were fighting for their country. Did you have any experience in that aspect where you would kind of deal with them face to face or close quarters where?
Yeah. After I returned from Okinawa and graduated from the language school, when I returned to my unit, I was promoted and transferred into S2 intelligence. And I became the chief scout for our battalion. And a scout was a person that was trained in the Vietnamese language. And then we had former enemy soldiers, VC, Viet Cong soldiers, that had given themselves up for different reasons. And then so they would work, and that's why they called them Kit Carson teams. They would work, say, with Derek. He was trained in Vietnamese, and maybe his training was in California. And then he came to Vietnam, and then he was placed in the scout teams. And so I was in charge of 12 scout teams, and then they would be attached to, say, your platoon is going out on patrol. So I would attach Derek and his Vietnamese counterpart, and then they would go with you. And then while you were out there, you got into some firefights and some battles, and you encountered, say you captured some enemy people, then Derek and his counterpart would come to that point and question those enemy soldiers to get any and all information that they could get to help your platoon, to know who's out there, how many there are, what kind of weapons they have, if these guys would give up the information. But anyway, we encountered a lot of that kind of stuff. And then we had a POW camp in our battalion area where we kept the prisoners, and we had to interact with them every day. And it's not easy. Sometimes there's really, really difficult times that you encounter.
I couldn't imagine.
It's difficult. You have to make decisions that involve someone living or dying. And again, my gosh, we were teenagers. Can you imagine being an 18, 19-year-old young man that's put into a situation where we were and having to make life and death decisions? Wow, we should have been at the drive-in or something with our girlfriend, you know? And here we are. You got a .45 pistol on your side and a rifle in your arms and grenades attached to you, and you're going to decide if that guy's going to live or die. Then you own that for the rest of your life.
And that has to be one of the most difficult things, that happens. I never had that experience.
Thank God.
And I'm very thankful of that,
Yes.
And I respect you and everyone else who had to make those decisions, and
And brother, you touched on something earlier, and I'm so glad that you did, because not too many deployed combat veterans may not agree with it or even mention it. But when you talked about that was their country, you remember you said that earlier? You said that's their country, that's their... And the thing is, like when we were in Vietnam, what would we do here if our country got invaded? Would you not fight to defend your families and your country? Well, of course we would.
Yeah.
Of course. And so, I mean, I have the right. I earned the right to say what I'm going to say. So whoever views this or hears this, and you want to make some sort of a comment like, but listen, I earned the right. We were the intruders.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe some of you out there that are listening, and you say, well, wow, man, that guy's, why is he saying that? He's a combat veteran, wounded. Why is he saying that? Well, it's true. Listen, man, we invaded their country. Yes, there was a war going on. Yes, there were people dying. Yes, but it was still their Vietnam. We were sent there, invaded their country. What would you do if some other country invaded us? Hey, I know what I would do. No question. I'm going to defend.
Every time.
Every time. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's a thing that we need to realize that, listen, all life matters.
No doubt. Yeah, I think it's important to make that distinction that we're protecting our homeland. There's no doubt, and we want our citizens to never have to experience what those in Vietnam or for us or in our generation, Iraq and Afghanistan.
Right.
We don't want our people to have to deal with that.
Exactly. That's why we go over there.
Right. But I understand, and that's why one of the reasons I do want to bring up that we need to respect the enemy.
We do.
It's not we're in their territory, and they're fighting to defend their homeland.
And they are human beings.
Exactly.
Come on, man. They're not. When we were being trained prior to being sent to Vietnam, they actually would the word indoctrinated be proper, or brainwashed be proper? That we were told, you don't refer to them as Vietnamese, you refer to them as slant eyes, gooks. I hate that word. As if to put into our minds that, so you have to kill some of them. No big deal. They're just like, they don't matter. Life has no meaning in their country. Man, come on. That's not true. But they did that to make it easier on us when we had to kill someone.
Dehumanization is something that has to happen.
Absolutely.
And
has to be done.
It's a lot easier to do it to an 18-year-old.
See?
Than it is to do to a 40-year-old.
Yeah, you can't get away with that now. No. I mean, like, I'm 74 years old. You want to send me back? Yeah, I'll go. But it's going to be different how I look at things. That's why they don't want to send us. They want to send these young guys that they can brainwash.
Yeah.
And it's really a difficult thing.
And it's not that, just to make it clear, I don't think you're downing on the military at all.
No, not at all.
I'm not either. I mean, I think that the military is a great experience for everybody. But there's the reality of life. Everything has two sides of the coin.
Amen.
And I think that it's important that hopefully, or maybe some young kid will pick up on this video one day, or see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
They'll understand a little bit better what they're getting into.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
impossible to fully grasp the life and death
Cannot.
situation that you're put into, and but it's important to know what you're signing up for when
Yes.
you're 18 years old.
Right.
You know, raising a right hand. It's not a video game.
No,
It's not a
not.
television show, a movie. When you have, and I'll digress a second, but I remember an LT in my squadron who she got her first kill as a F-16 pilot, and she didn't want to fly anymore.
See?
They killed her.
See?
She hated it. Her dad was a colonel in the Air Force. So,
Oh.
yeah, you can. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't always understand, is what I'm getting at. So, would you say that combat changed you as a person?
Absolutely.
Could you elaborate?
Sure. I had an incident. Boy. I don't know if I want to. There's a lot of things that happen. And once again, I'm talking combat. Okay. And there's a lot of things that happen in just your general service time, whether it's back here or wherever. But most of my experiences that affected me as a person happened in Vietnam. That stuff that I saw, stuff that still affects me today. And in the language that we use now, even in psychologists, psychiatrists, PTSD, and I think we use the word triggers. And so for those people that don't understand that, let me explain triggers. We know that there's a trigger on a pistol or a rifle, but triggers are things that trigger your mind, that comes up and makes you think about something. It stimulates your mind. It triggers you to remember something or go back to something. Like one of the things that was a trigger in my life, and I had to share this with my wife and daughter, so that when it would happen, that they would know how to respond. It was the sound of the blades that a helicopter makes when they're rotating. And one of the specific helicopters that I'm referencing is the Huey gunship helicopter, which was used widely in Vietnam. And it made like a whoop, 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 whoop sound. And where we live, there's a flight pattern to the Pittsburgh area hospitals from our local hospital here. And the medevac helicopter sounds so much like one of those combat helicopters. And when it leaves the hospital here, and as it gains altitude and strikes out across the flight pattern, I can hear it. And so why does that have an effect on you? What's the big deal about that? Well, here's why. Because in Vietnam, whenever you heard that whoop, 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 it meant one of three things. It's a helicopter gunship coming to lay down support fire because you're pinned down and you're taking heavy casualties and you're praying, Lord, let those Hueys come to help save us. Or it's taking wounded and dead out. So that's a trigger for me. So I explained that to my wife and my daughter. So wherever we are and you hear a helicopter, just get close to me and help to encourage me to be calm. You might say, wow. I would have never thought about something like that. Yeah. Most people don't, because we cannot expect you, those who have never experienced that. I cannot expect you to understand that. I can't. But please try to understand me.
Well, at least you're lucky enough to have a good support system around you, because a lot of guys, unfortunately, don't. That speaks volumes. Not just about your family, but you. I mean, you've done so well creating such a good life for you and your family, that them to be in there to constantly support you is absolutely, that's got to be second to none for you.
Yeah.
It's got to, I mean, and I understand. I try to understand. I empathize how that would. I think combat is traumatizing.
Extremely.
From the second you experience it, you're never going to be the same. Minutes feel like hours, and seconds feel like minutes, and it's. If you aren't there, you don't understand.
Correct. I told when I first went for PTSD counseling in Pittsburgh, VA, and I tried to explain to the psychiatrist at my first meeting, and I could see that she wasn't understanding. Now, I know they go to school. I majored in psychology in college, so I know pretty much where I'm coming from. But you cannot understand me unless you yourself have the old Indian, until I've walked a mile in your moccasins, something to that effect.
Right.
So the way I explained it to the psychiatrist was, and she says, Mr. Ernest, I understand that you were traumatized. I understand that you experienced horrible things and la. But it wasn't your fault. Yes, you're correct. What you were ordered to do certain things. Yes, I was. But it's still me that did it.
Right.
How do I get away from myself?
I hate that word, but.
So I asked her, I said, you cannot ever understand what is inside of me and what I feel, what I carry on a daily basis. Why, when I go to sleep at night, that I all of a sudden wake up with sweat, scared sometimes. You get up and leave the bedroom and go out and make coffee. It's only 3 o'clock in the morning, my wife is saying, Jack, are you okay out there? Yeah, I'll be all right. I love you. Love you too. Sometimes I fall asleep, back to sleep in the recliner. And I asked the psychiatrist, I said, do you expect me to ever understand what it's like to have a baby? I'll never be able to understand that. There's no way I can relate to giving birth to a child. No matter how much videos I watch, no matter how much schooling I go through, no matter how many tests I pass, there's no way possible for me to understand. And there's no way possible for you to understand what I saw and experienced that I carry with me for the rest of my life. She sat there and looked at me. She said, I have never, ever heard anything explained that way before. She said, this day I have been schooled and I have learned how to be a better psychologist or psychiatrist. That was phenomenal. She said, I'll never be able to understand what life is. No, you won't. Can't. You can't. Unless you experience it, you cannot. And that's something that veterans, why are we so kind of like a family? No matter where you served, whether you did or didn't, you were a veteran. You saw, as he said earlier, you signed on the dotted line. It makes you my brother. And I'll fight for you. So, I don't know. We need to be more understanding, more compassionate, more willing to listen and try to understand what others are going through. And our VSO officers here in our office in Steubenville, Ohio, are great people. Absolutely phenomenal. You must be a veteran to work here. And that's a number one thing. These guys, and one of our VSO officers is a woman, Air Force veteran. And you guys sit behind your desks day after day, and you sit there and you listen. These veterans come in, some of them break and cry, some of them are frustrated, some are this. But you guys are sitting there listening. And at the end of the day, when you go home, and you might say, hey, honey, I want to share with you what happened today. And maybe you share with your wife something that was positive. I was able to help this guy today. He come in, he was angry and upset, but when he left, he was smiling. That's what we do, that's who we are, and that's who we will continue to be, because we are a special breed. We are veterans.
And you have been serving in your community longer than Derek and I. If I'm still serving my community the way you have in 20, 30 years, I'll feel like I've helped half as many people as you, Jack. You've done so many great things. So, yeah. I know that the veterans here at Jefferson County hold you in a very special place. Would you like to move on from the kind of
Sure.
Can we move on from
Yes,
the
sir.
combat? I don't like the heavy
Amen.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked before. So just quickly, end of service, when you got out, what was that experience like?
It was difficult because, like I said, back in the day, and I shared with you about the being neglected and rejected, even trying to buy car insurance. It was hard getting jobs. Once you got a job, you were watched and expected to explode or blow up or kill somebody. And so it took a long time to prove yourself trustworthy. It was rough, a really, really difficult adjustment. And we, back whenever I got out, and we weren't schooled on adjustments and what to expect and things like that. We just kind of were on our own, kind of, one day at a time. But we made it. we made it. So
You've done incredible. So do you keep in touch with any of the guys from your unit?
yeah,
That's good.
yeah. There's a couple guys that I keep in touch with, and we're all getting older. We've got all of us have health issues, and well, if somebody asked me, and you already did, would you do it again? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Did your service, and I think you kind of answered it. Never mind, you did answer it. I was going to say, how did it affect your family and your loved ones? But we covered that. There are good parts about serving. One of the things that's good is the benefits that we get. Not just the way the VA takes care of us, but like the GI Bill, the home loan. Did you use any of those services after, and if so, to what extent?
Well, when I got a job, fortunately, because I had people working on the inside that was able to get me a job, and then I signed up for the GI Bill, and I started going to college in the evenings. So that was an asset. I never went long enough to earn a degree, but it helped me very much. So I used the GI Bill. Eventually ended up using the VA ability to secure a home loan, which helped quite a bit. And they were very, very nice and helped secure for us a good interest rate. And so I used that. And now, in the later years, I signed up for VA benefits and found out. And here's another thing. That's why I'm so thankful for you guys. And I don't know, you guys, when I say you guys, Derek's sitting over in the corner, and this gentleman right here, Nathan, that it's so important what you guys do. So vital to help these vets. And that's what we're here for. That's basically our life right now. But to make sure that the guys know what's available for them. See, we didn't know. I didn't know. All those years that I worked in the mill, and I had very good insurance, but I knew nothing about the VA. I knew nothing. And once a friend of mine who was in real estate, and he had been in the Air Force, he asked me, have you ever signed up for the VA yet? And I said, no, I don't need that stuff. And a lot of that becomes because we think, look, I still have both arms, both legs. The VA is for those guys that, need this and need that, and are, handicapped or whatever. But that's not all true. You do, if you served, it's there for you. And so once I did get registered with the VA and started to learn that, my gosh, because I was wounded and I have a Purple Heart, that puts me in Category 3, which bumps me up to a higher level for care and be able to get appointments quicker and other benefits. I didn't know. I didn't know any of that. And here I've been paying for my own glasses for years. Find out once I'm in the VA, I get glasses every 2 years free.
Well, they've changed that. It's every year.
Every
year.
Just learned something today.
New frames. And secondly, if you break them, they'll give you a new pair whenever you want.
How's that?
There you go.
Jack learned something again.
Glad I could be of service.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Wow, every year.
Every year, yeah. So go up there and get your prescriptions every year.
Wow.
Take advantage of it.
See that?
Did you join or what do you do with the veterans now? That's really the question. I mean, I know that you guys got the veterans group. Yeah.
All right.
I'll let you take over.
We started a Vietnam veterans support, very important support group. And we started this group almost 40 years ago here in Steubenville, Ohio. And I'm one of the founding members of that. And a lot of the brothers that helped found and form have since deceased. But we're still going strong after all that time. And we meet every Wednesday. And it's a support group. And like I said earlier, if you're a veteran that lives in the tri-state area and you have been deployed, I just ran into a veteran today that was in the first Desert Storm, informed him of where we meet and when, and he said, hey, I didn't even know about it. I'll come down. So I've been working with veterans in that regard for over 40 years. And now I'm one of the commissioners in the state of Ohio for Jefferson County, serving as a commissioner for the Veterans Service, emphasizing service, Veterans Service, emphasizing service commission. We serve you guys out there. We serve you. We're here. These guys are here. Trained professionals. They just don't walk in here. They have to go to school, not once, but many, many times over and over, continually to learn, to be updated on what's going on. Just like Nathan said, hey, Jack, it's 1 year now. I didn't know that until now. So thank you.
No.
But we're here. We're here. And so I have and it's not a position that you're voted into. You must be appointed to the position by a judge who gets recommendations from fellow veterans, from your peer group. And I've been serving as a commissioner now for quite a while and have the opportunity to help veterans everywhere I see them.
And from what I've noticed, we've gone to meetings with Jack, and Jack advocates for veterans every single time. Yeah, it's always about that's what you look at first every time, I've noticed, and it's great to hear you speak like that. You know, you'd have to come to the meeting to see it, but yeah, it's great to hear it. This is a reflections that they want to kind of hit on for the VHP program. So, what are some life lessons that you learned from serving in the military?
Wow. A little humor. Am I allowed to inject some humor?
Yes.
Really?
Please.
Okay, here we go.
It's your interview.
Well, I learned that being in the military, being in the Marine Corps, that you're not allowed to sweat. You might say, what? What's he saying? I'm glad you asked. When I was in the Marine Corps in basic training, and we were running several miles, probably 110 or something, I don't know, 1,000 miles. And I was sweating. And my drill sergeant ran up alongside of me, and I think he bit part of my ear off. But he says, why are you sweating? And I said, sir, it's hot and I'm tired. He says, I'm going to tell you this once, and don't ever forget it. Marines are not permitted to sweat. I haven't sweated since. Like I said, that was humor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But I've learned the being in the service for almost for a 4-year enlistment has trained me and taught me to fight. And I'm not just talking about combat. I'm talking about fighting for life, fighting for your fellow brothers and sisters, fighting, not giving up. Don't quit. Who said you can quit? I didn't read that in the manual that you can quit. It's not in there. And you just keep pushing on, and you see, if you see one of your brothers that's lagging behind, don't keep running. Go back and get him. What's up? You can't leave nobody behind. That's basically our motto, right? I'm not talking Marine Corps. I'm talking about general service as veterans. Look, I would want you to help me if I'm lagging and stuff. I want to see Nathan come back and grab me up. Come on, brother, I got you. Or Derek, hey, come on, Jack, we can do this. Yeah. So I learned from being in the service a lot of important things that has helped me fashion my life after service. That I had that tenacity. I had that drive to keep going. Like a little bit more humor. What are you gonna do? Spank my hand and send me back? Huh? No, that don't work. We're going to be. Here we go. The Marine Corps quoting Army. Be all that you can be.
Oh gosh.
I threw that in there for the Army, right? Be all that you. And it was serious, man. That applies to all of us, right? Be all that you can be in life. In life, don't quit. Don't give up.
That should go for anybody.
Yeah, it is. It's for
Yeah,
anybody.
that's
All of us.
Good advice for anybody.
Yeah, don't quit. Nobody said you could quit, and if they did, they lied.
Yeah.
Won't buy that.
That's the one thing I've always liked about the Marines, and as an Air Force vet, it's hard for me to say. But,
Oh yeah, there it is.
Semper Fi is it's beaten into you guys from day one, but
my God.
always faithful is probably the greatest military motto I think I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a great Marine characteristic, I should say. So we kind of touched on it earlier, but how has your service affected your feelings on war and just war in general?
Okay, good question. Now that I've experienced it, been there, walked it, lived it, still living it, I don't ever want to see another war. No, not just me personally. I don't want to see our country and humanity in general to have to fight another war. I don't want to see that. I don't want anyone to experience that. And I constantly run into veterans that say, well, I didn't go to Vietnam. They sent me to Germany. Like they're saying, well, I don't count. I'm not important. Don't stop. You did what you did. You went where they told you to go. And I've had guys say that to me. And I said, you know what? I'm glad you didn't have to go. I'm glad. And they're like, why are you saying that? Because I don't want anyone to ever have to see the horrors of combat, of war, where children get killed and old folks die too young and veterans come back and live forever with what they experienced and were exposed to. So war, how do I feel about war? I never want anyone to have to go to war. I don't want a country to have to go to war. It's just, Nathan, I went back to Vietnam, and I don't know, I think you know this, you guys, but I returned to Vietnam, bone mui bone lung. What was that? Bone mui bone lung. That's Vietnamese for 44 times. I returned to the country of Vietnam 44 times. And you're going to say, well, why did he go back so? What was that? What was that all about? I was invited to go back the first time with a veterans group from South Lake Tahoe, California. They had heard about the things I was doing with veterans and speaking across the country. I went back the first time. It was very, very difficult. One of the most difficult things I've ever done. And then I saw through that 21 days that we were in country, something that I felt God wanted me to continue. So I started taking Vietnam veterans, back to Vietnam for closure. Wow. Unbelievable. Took some of these guys back, cried like a baby, fell off the plane, going down the steps, fell on the tarmac, crying. And I had already experienced mine. And I would just kneel down beside that veteran, hug him, let him cry, get him up on his feet, go into the airport, go through customs, take a taxi to the airport, to the hotel. And that veteran began to heal. He began to heal. The people he hated, wanted to kill, he was now hugging these little kids in the square, laughing, hugging these little kids, walking up to old Papa San and shaking his hand. Jack, translate for me. And now that veteran is completely free from his psychotic problems, his fears, living a wonderful life, got a wonderful family.
That's amazing.
I don't believe it either, but it's true.
Oh, I believe it 100%.
I mean,
if you get to watch the video and you meet Jack, let me tell you, it's powerful. If it doesn't come through the video, it's extremely powerful to sit down.
And we were able to connect with South Vietnamese veterans who fought with the American forces. These guys, after the North came south and took over, turned Vietnam into a total communist country. And I got to meet with some of these soldiers who were in hiding. And when they heard about this American that spoke their language that was coming back, and they made connections, and I would go to ungodly places to meet with these men. They would cry. They grabbed me, held on to me and cried, and said, "We thought we would never see you guys again." They never knew me. I never met them. But what he meant was Americans. Americans. So we helped to support them and their families. They were living in a cardboard, literally a little place, basically homeless, made out of cardboard. Had a little baby laying there on the floor. But you know, when we have been given a second chance, my God, make full use of it. Listen, we're all here because we've been given a second chance. All you guys, you've been deployed, you've been where you could have been killed in an instant. But there's a purpose and a reason why you guys are doing what you're doing. I've asked both of you guys on several different occasions. Pop in your office someday and I'll say, "Hey, Derek, what's up, man?" "Oh, I'm doing good, brother." "How's that little girl?" "Oh, man, this, that." "Derek, how you like your job?" "I love it. I absolutely love what I'm doing." "Nathan, hey, brother, what's up? How you like your job, Nathan?" "Jack, I can't tell you how much I love this job." "Why?" "Because I'm having the opportunity daily to help my fellow veterans." And when you have an office filled with staff with that kind of heartfelt attitude, you need help, come to Steubenville.
That's about as high as recommendations you can get, Mike. Thank you, Jack.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And I do love my job. I was just telling my wife
know
that
you
today.
do.
I just, yeah, honestly.
Yes, you guys do.
So, is there anything that you would like to leave future generations with? What's a message, a word of wisdom? I mean, you've lived a very long and prosperous life, and you're extremely successful. That's not a question. What do you have to give? What could you give the future generations?
Well, we've each been blessed and given a life to live. My advice would simply be live it to the fullest. Don't be satisfied with second. Strive, fight for what is important. We only have one life, and it's always been my attitude to never quit, never give up. We have one child, a daughter. She'll be turning 50 in July. Raised by a combat crazy Marine. Wasn't easy for her growing up. But we taught her the same principles. She's a very successful educator in Columbus, Ohio. Sometimes she'll tell me, Dad, you were really, really hard on me. She said, but I'm where I am because of that. So, hey, you're out there listening, you're watching this. Don't take no for an answer. Strive, fight, push forward. Don't quit. In my personal life, I've had throat cancer. Doctor sent me home to die. I chose to live. I refused to die. Old hard-headed guy. I said, no, I ain't dying. I ain't giving up. I ain't quitting. Lost my voice, couldn't talk. Doctor said I only had so long to live. Really? I ain't buying that. I ain't quitting. I ain't giving up. Had my back broken in 4 places. Put me in a cast where I couldn't move. Called a specialist in from Pittsburgh. I said, I don't need him. I'll be okay. Doctor said, you have to sign a release. I signed a release and went home. Thought I was going to die, but I didn't. I refuse. I mean, our time's coming, yes. You're not going to live forever down here anyway. But be someone who makes a difference in someone else's life. You guys, every day, you guys have opportunities to help change lives. When someone comes in your office, they can be destitute, they can be down and out, they can be ready to end it. And you have to be that positive force that says, hey, listen, this ain't the end. We can get through this. We'll make it. And just don't quit. Don't quit. I choose not to be allowed to quit. I'm not going to quit. And we've all been through stuff from birth until now. We've all struggled with things. We've all had times where we thought, this is it, I'm done. Just like when I got wounded in Vietnam, 19 years old, laying in a rice paddy, watching my blood make the water turn red. Is this it for Jack Ernest? Is this where he ends it at 19 years of age? I chose to say no. I chose. You see, life is about choices. No one escapes that. You choose. You know, there's a scripture. If it's permissible for me to talk about a scripture.
Oh, you're fine.
There's a scripture that says, this is the day the Lord has made. Psalm 118, verse 24. This is the day the Lord has made. And we shall rejoice and be glad in it. It says we shall. It doesn't say maybe. You get rid of the maybe stuff, man. No, I don't do the maybe stuff. I'm nobody special, man. I'm just a guy that has taken, they say, grab life by the horns, or how is it? Be a positive example for somebody else. I hate it when I see people going around sucking on lemons. You ever see that person sucks on lemons?
I know what you're talking about.
Huh?
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, throw the lemon away. Get something sweeter. We have the opportunity to encourage someone else, whether it's in McDonald's, whether it's in Walmart, or wherever. You're going down the road and guy cuts in front of you and he uses that sign language. You know what I'm talking about, that sign language. And he's blowing the horn, yelling at you. Man, you're just driving down the road. Don't let that guy steal your joy. Don't let that happen, man. Be positive. It's like, yeah, it's easy for you to say. Well, if we'd sit down, I'd tell you about my life. You'd say, how can he say that? How can he still choose? But there's the key. Choose. So what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with your life? I don't know what your age is that's watching this or listening. But you have a choice as well. And we have to live with the choices we make in life. Whether you make good choices or bad, consequences follow. So be a positive person. Try to be happy. I have problems too. I have situations that I got to deal with every day. But I refuse to let negative things control me. When I go to McDonald's, I'm known as Mr. Marvelous. I go there almost every day because I have a drug problem. I'm addicted. Oh, here they got this guy that has an addiction. They're letting him do this. Well, don't judge me. My addiction is vanilla lattes. So I'm going to sue McDonald's because I'm addicted to the vanilla lattes. So I'm in McDonald's almost every day. And now when I go in, they say, how are you, sir? My response is marvelous. And about 2 or 3 weeks of that, now when I walk into McDonald's, they automatically fix my latte. They don't ask me what I want. And they say, hey, Mr. Marvelous, how are you today? And they say in unison, he's marvelous. I just had a guy hit my car, man. What's up? But all said and done, I walk in McDonald's, get my coffee. Hey, how you doing? Marvelous. But it's a choice. Listen to me. I'm telling you. Choose. You got a choice. I made my choice. I made my choice at 19 years old, laying in a rice paddy dying. And I said, you know what? No, you don't stop here. I have a choice. And I'm going to make a choice to live. Painful, yes. Bleeding, yes. Doubts, of course. But I still had to make a choice. So?
That is the most veteran advice I've ever heard. Honestly. Just don't quit.
Don't quit.
That's it. Well, final question. Final question.
Okay.
If anything, what do you think the average citizen should know about veterans?
Wow. What should the average citizen know about veterans? That they are a group of men and women, who have chosen to be servants to their fellow man. They have chosen. Wow, isn't it ironic that we're talking about choice again? Huh. They've made a choice to serve their country. Thank God. Thank God for veterans. And I'm not asking you to humble yourself and get down on your knees and kiss their hands. Not at all. But listen, if we did not have veterans, we would not have a country. If it weren't for the veterans, we would not have freedom. If it wasn't for the veterans, we wouldn't be sitting in this room right now doing this. Veterans are probably some of the most important people that we have. Like I said, World War II veterans are my heroes. What they did enabled me as a little boy to grow up, to be able to go fishing and hunting and swimming because of what they did over there. And the men and women in our armed forces today are doing the very same thing. And we as citizens better wake up and realize that without veterans, we have no country, we have no freedom. So I hope that this interview has been able to spark in you something that would cause either change the way you think. You may have been thinking ill about veterans. But listen, if it wasn't for the veterans, we would not have the freedoms that we have. And it's not easy being a veteran. I touched on this prior, that, listen, there's families, there's wives that stand at an airport holding a little child, watching their husband walk up the steps of a plane, not knowing if they'll ever see him again. Or boarding a ship, holding a little child, just like your little daughter. Imagine your wife standing holding your little daughter, and you got your bags packed and you've got orders to be deployed. You turn around, you're halfway up the steps, and you turn around and you look, and you think to yourself, Lord, if I don't make it back, take care of them. That's a veteran. That's a veteran. I can't imagine doing that. So, if you're out there listening and you ever doubt the importance of our veterans, you better think again.
Well, Jack, I can't thank you enough for coming in and doing this with us. It's been a wonderful, for me, it's been a wonderful experience. I think Derek has nodded his head, and I mean, he's laughed. We've all had an amazing time. I hope the same goes for you.
No, absolutely. It's been a pleasure and an honor for me. It really has.
Same from us. And I'd like to, you guys didn't get this enough. Welcome home.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we thank you for your service.
Wow. Thank you, brother.
No. Thank you for doing it with us.
Yes.